Hi everybody, DM Kevin here. I'm joined by Michael. We're continuing our series today on easiest to hardest classes to play for new players, in our opinion.
Yes.
Today we'll be discussing our fourth class, which is going to be Ranger. Thank you again for joining us in this series. This is awesome that we're able to get this information out to the new players. I've gotten some feedback from some of the people that have watched the videos, and they're saying they're picking up things that they weren't quite sure about or didn't know. So I think this is awesome that we're able to give you this information from two guys who love the game, who we love playing, we love character building, and we like doing the things that we're doing today for you. So Michael, again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're just going to hop right in. Michael, as always, we're sitting down with a blank character sheet in front of us. We're just kind of, we're like, okay, I want to play Ranger today. We're going to start out with what we get for hit points. What do we get for hit points?
So our hit die is a D10, which is the same as a fighter.
Yes, it is.
So you're going to be, you have that choice now. If you want to be that up close and personal, running in there with the swords and be the hack and slash type, you now can. Or if you want to be that laid back, more like a roguish type, you can still do that as well.
This is huge because it's 10 plus your con mod at first level. So even if you don't put a high number into your con,
Sitting at like a 13 or 12.
you're still going to be getting an 11, 12, 13 hit points at first level, which is going to be huge. You're right up there with the fighter at first level. You're able to take just as much damage as the fighter at first level. But if you decide to go ranged, for example, you're doing that ranged attack to where he can charge in. You're going to stay back. You can retain those hit points. You can be the one.
You're that second line of defense.
You're the second line of defense. Absolutely. Okay. With that being said, Michael, we have our hit points on the sheet now. Well, let's go straight into proficiencies. Let's go into armor. What do we get for armor?
Light, medium, and shields.
Okay. So if you notice, you get everything but heavy armor.
That you do.
But as a ranger, the heavy armor aspect really should never come into play.
Not really.
You're really going to want that medium for the charge in or the light for the stay back.
Right.
Maybe bounce around the battlefield, do some hit and runs, things like that. So I would totally agree that this right here, going with the medium armor and shield or going with the light armor later on, I think would be huge. And you're proficient with all of it. So
Right.
it doesn't matter what you choose because you're going to be proficient. You get that proficiency.
Right, which
so
is very, very nice.
It's very nice. Okay, weapons. What do we get for weapons?
It's a laundry list.
Okay,
so
here we go. Okay, all right. Let me get
Everyone
comfortable.
get comfortable?
All right, here we go. Okay, weapons.
Simple and martial. All of it. All non-magical utility things, staves, wands. None of that, but everything else, yes.
Okay, so that's huge for a ranger, honestly, because as you go onto the battlefield, you're proficient with all simple and martial weapons. So therefore, you can pick up any weapon on that battlefield, minus the magical stuff,
Right.
and you're proficient with it. You automatically get your proficiency bonus added into the attacks. That can be huge.
Right. So you're sitting there with two daggers, hacking and slashing at this orc. He drops. He has a fancy longsword that you've been looking to grab for a while. Pick it up. You now can use that longsword.
And you're proficient with it, so guess what? It's as though it was yours to begin with.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so tools, no tools,
Right.
unfortunately. I think that's okay for a ranger. Ranger's really not the tinker type.
Not necessarily.
He's really not the one who. Now you can use tools. You don't get the proficiency. You're not proficient with them. So if a rule calls or if something has to be, if you have to be proficient with a certain tool to fix something, you can't do it.
Right.
But that's okay for rangers, honestly. Saving throws. What do we get for saving throws?
We have a whopping strength and dexterity as our saving throws. Same as fighter.
And again, that's going to be huge for you new players out there. Even if you don't put a high number into this strength for the character, you're still going to get proficiency added on to the save. So you're going to be getting a +2, +3 at higher levels. You're going to be going up. You're getting that plus
Right.
proficiency added into these saving throws, which is huge.
Which can be really nice those times where there's a party member about to fall off a cliff. You dive for him, try to catch him, make that strength save, see if you can hold on to him. Of course, there's also spells that you have to worry about that make you do a strength save. Now you don't have to worry about those
There you go.
as often.
And then Dex.
Same thing. Certain spells make you do those dexterity saving throws.
Fireball.
Fireball.
Oh.
Someone throws a rock down a hill. Now it's rolling down the hill. You try to jump out of the way. You make that dex save.
There you go.
You have ways to avoid. You have ways to avoid it.
All right. So talk about laundry list again. We're going to go into the skills now. This is another laundry list of skills. But out of this, you do get to choose 3 of your choice. So it may sound like a lot, but you're choosing 3 of these.
There's a whopping 8 spells to choose from. Animal handling.
You said spells. There's a whopping. Start there.
There's a whopping 8 skills to choose from.
Wow. Okay.
Animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, perception, stealth, and survival.
That's huge because when you're building your character, this is going to give you the ability to kind of fine tune, but also give yourself a little bit of flexibility
Right.
in the different things you can do. You might want to take animal handling, nature, and survival, for example, to be this nature guy who makes friends with all the animals. You could do investigation, perception, and insight.
Right.
To find out what's going on, people telling you the truth.
That more inquisitive type.
Yeah. Or you can go with like athletics, stealth, and survival.
Right. To be that more physically capable, I'm going to survive in the wilderness type.
So with those 3 you're able to choose, you can kind of develop a story behind your character about what's going on, what they're capable of doing, and then move forward with that into your character development. I think it's huge. I think it's great.
It really helps drive a character.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
All right. So now, Michael, we have our proficiencies. We have our hardest starting hit dice. We know what we're going to be doing. Now we're going to go into starting equipment. A bunch of ABs again.
Another bunch of ABs. This first one's going to be armor, so this one's really going to be helping to figure out what you want to do. If you want to be that sword and board rushing in, or kind of laid back picking people off at range. Scale mail or leather armor.
Yep.
Leather being light, scale mail being medium.
So therefore, you're proficient with both. So that's why you get these at the first level, and that's why you're getting these right off the bat as starting equipment. This is going to define your character a little bit more. Like you said, are they the ranged character who stays behind, or are they the sword and board who kind of runs in?
Right.
Now, with that being said, you also now start out with either 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons.
The 2 short swords can be really nice because now you are that rush in with your scale mail, be doing that damage. Or you could take the 2 simple weapons with that leather, and now you have that kind of like roguish type. Personally, I would take a dagger and a hand axe. That dagger allows you to help whittle things, carving up fish, things like that you catch in the wilderness. And the hand axe, you can use it to chop wood, using those in those survival scenarios. And also in a pinch, both can be thrown.
There you go. So you have a little bit of ranged aspect in there with those 2. Now, next is going to be something that you'll need to discuss with your DM before. And this is something that I recommend for new players. Is you're going to ask the DM, are we going to be above ground traveling a lot? Or are we going to be dungeon delving and going down into dungeons more? The reason I say this is because you start off with your choice of either a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack.
Right. This kind of ties into a feature at first level, which is your favorite terrain. This really helps cement what kind of ranger you want to be. That like dungeon delving, Indiana Jones type.
Okay.
Or that big, expansive explorer type.
Yes, I would agree. And then the last thing you get is what all rangers get. Every single ranger gets these. It's a longbow, 20 arrows, and a quiver.
Right.
So therefore, you're going to have your ranged attack all set up for you. It's something you automatically get. Now, the longbow is huge for rangers, mainly because you can hit things up to 600 feet away.
that you can, which can be insane to get maybe 4 or 5 rounds of just
Sure.
extra pot shots before they even get close enough to shoot with their bow.
And even if you miss new players, even if you miss your attacks, if you're rolling at disadvantage and you're not hitting them, at least you're shooting and at least you're trying.
Yeah.
That's going to be big for new players. Don't be afraid to try, because if you do hit them and you do take out an enemy before he gets to you,
That's
that's
one less thing
one
you have
less
to worry
thing
about.
you have to worry about. Oh, absolutely. I totally
So-
agree. So that's going to be the starting equipment. If when you're developing these characters, and when you, especially with the hit points, the proficiencies, and the starting equipment, it's great to be able to sit down at a session 0, new players, and as you're going through these lists, ask your other players who you're playing with, hey, what are you doing? What are you starting with? What are you starting with? If fit yourself into the mold of the party, but also make sure you define your character. Okay, Michael, now that we have our hit points, proficiencies, and starting equipment, we'll hop right into the nitty gritty. What we get at first level. We get something called Favored Enemy. Beginning at first level, you have a significant experience studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to certain types of enemies.
Right.
What's the list of enemies we get to choose from?
It's a long one, so everyone get ready.
Here we go.
Apparitions, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, fays, fiends, giants, monstrosity, oozes, plants, or undead. Alternatively, you
Okay.
could pick 2 humanoid types like gnolls, orcs, trolls, things like that.
Okay, and then favorite enemy is really big for a ranger, mainly because they get advantage on wisdom checks to track their favorite enemy. So therefore, if you're tracking the goblin or you're tracking the giants, or you're tracking your favorite enemy, you're going to get advantage on trying to find them and tracking them down.
Right, which would be really nice. You also learn one of the languages of your chosen enemies, if they speak a language at all.
See, and that's huge, because therefore you track them, you can listen to what they have to say, and then you can even talk back to them if you really want to. Okay, the next thing you're going to get is something called Natural Explorer. So Natural Explorer, you get to choose a certain type of environment
Right.
that you are now proficient with, per se.
Right.
With traveling and surviving in such regions. You get to choose from the Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamp, and Underdark. This is, I mean, you pretty much get to choose whatever you want.
Right. Also, when you make an intelligence or wisdom check relating to your terrain, you get to double your proficiency modifier with it.
That's huge. If you have a +2, +3, it now becomes +4, +6.
Right.
And so you're going to have a really good chance of getting a success on gaining that information. Now, another big thing, while traveling for an hour or more in your favorite terrain, we get some added benefits.
That you do.
We'll just kind of go back and forth and we'll discuss these.
So, difficult terrain does not slow the travel time of your group.
Now, that's the group. So as a group, if you are traveling through your favorite terrain, your group is not slowed. So therefore, if you're going through heavy snow and your favorite thing is snow or tundra, you're not slowed down.
No.
The next one, your group cannot become lost except by magical means.
Exactly.
So if somebody is magically changing your trajectory or where you're going, that's about the only way you're going to be able to get lost. Otherwise, you can't become lost. Even when you engage in another activity while traveling, such as foraging, navigating, or tracking, you remain alert to danger.
That is very nice because most of the time when you do those, you can't be also ready for an attack. You're focused on one thing at a time. But now, if you're a ranger in that forest, when you're foraging for food, now you're also ready for that surprise goblin attack.
There you go. And so therefore, you really can't be surprised at that point. If you're traveling alone, you move stealthily at a normal pace.
That is also very nice. Normally, when you travel at a stealthy pace, you're moving at roughly 1/4 the speed. Now you're getting to move your full 30 feet, 35 feet of movement, really picking up that pace of that small or that slow maneuverable trek.
Now, the next one comes back. If you took that survival skill earlier, this one comes in really handy. When you forage, you find twice as much food as you normally would.
Again, huge. So if you're playing a more like survival campaign where finding food is really hard.
If you don't start with rations, for example, or if you run out of rations.
Right. So things like that where now it's like, I don't know if I can feed. I know I can definitely find enough food for myself, but I know if I can find group for everyone or enough food for everyone.
Sure.
Now you can double the amount of food you can find.
There you go. And while tracking other creatures, you also learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long ago they passed through that area.
That by itself is huge. So like if you're tracking game to try to find a new favorite enemy or something like that, you now know there's exactly 3 orcs traveling this way and they're moving at a very quick rate. Again, now that if orc is your favorite enemy, you also do get some of those bonuses as well, which really add up over time.
I would agree. Okay, so now at 3rd level, we're going to get something. We're going to get to choose our archetype. This is going to be more. This is going to mold your character even more. It's going to give you much more detail about what your character is doing, where it's going, and kind of where it's headed, Michael.
Right.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is something called Beastmaster. What is Beastmaster?
Beastmaster is really cool. It's the ones that take an animal companion into the fight and on their adventures with them.
Nice.
Leading in with that, first ability is Ranger's Companion. It's a beast that will travel with you, as I said. It must be no larger than a medium creature, and its challenge rating must be 1/4 or lower.
Okay, so with that being said, there are some 1/4 creatures out there, or beasts, that are kind of squishy, don't have very many hit points. They may do a lot of damage on their attacks, but they don't really have that many hit points. How can we offset that?
It's really nice because our animal companion gets some extra benefits for being our animal companion.
Okay.
We get to add our proficiency bonus to its AC, attack rolls, damage rolls, saving throws, and skills it's proficient with.
That is awesome. So if you have a +2, +3, you're adding all of that on to that creature.
Right. And
That's
then
wow.
if you're
That's
still,
amazing.
If you're still feeling like those hit points aren't quite what you're looking for, you can either use its maximum hit points or 4 times your ranger level, whichever is higher.
So at this one, we're going to be at 3rd level times 4.
It's 12 hit points.
So if you have something that only has 10 hit points, for example, you're going to take the 12.
You're going to take that 12 because that extra 2 can be a whole extra attack it can survive.
Yes, I would agree. What else do we get?
So it obeys verbal commands and it takes its initiative on your turn.
Okay.
So you can forego one of your actions to give it a verbal command. Those verbal commands are attack, dash, disengage, or help. If you don't issue a command, it automatically takes the dodge action.
Okay, well, this can be huge because if you, like, let's say you forget, for example,
Which will happen.
a lot of times you forget and you're like, oh, wait, there's no going backsies on this. Once you've forwarded on in initiative, there's no going back. So with that being said, it automatically gets the dodge action. If something tries to attack it, at least it has the dodge action to get out of the way of at least one attack.
That it does. And then later on, once we have the extra attack feature,
Yes.
we'll get there. We can use a weapon attack for ourselves and then use our extra attack to command our beast to make the attack action.
And if you're flanking an enemy, you have advantage, and your beast now has advantage on that attack.
Exactly.
All right, so now the next one I think is pretty cool, is when you become incapacitated. If you drop to 0 or below hit points,
Right.
what does your beast do?
So if you're incapacitated or absent, your beast acts on its own, focusing on protecting you and itself. it never requires a command to use its reaction to like make a reactionary attack, like an attack of opportunity.
That's awesome. So you have a bodyguard.
You do. You basically have a bodyguard when you drop. So that's when your Saint Bernard will walk over with that like 1 or 2 potions you have in that barrel underneath its chin, and then another party member comes over, opens it, and then just dumps it down your throat.
That's awesome. That's a great way to look at it. Absolutely. And so just like any creature, it gets hit points back, right?
Yes, it gets hit points back, but instead of acting like a normal creature where it takes a long rest, during a short rest, it can use its hit die to roll to get hit points back like a character would.
Nice. Okay, and what else?
And then when you're traveling through your favorite terrain, it can move stealthily at full pace just like you can.
See, that's awesome because it can be stealthy, moving at the same pace as you, and that therefore it gives it advantage on stealth checks and things like that.
Yep.
To where the enemy may not even see Fluffy coming.
Exactly. So now your panther that jumps out from behind the bush, they never saw coming. Now it makes that surprise attack and kills that goblin dead.
That's pretty cool. And what happens if your beast dies?
Well, as we all know, an old Yeller situation might happen, and you may have to put it down. You can spend 8 hours to magically bond to another beast that isn't hostile towards you, either the same type or a different one.
Now, new players, get with your DM. Find out what their rules are for this. Are they allowing you to do a creature you see that is there, magically bond with it? Or are they going to allow you to magically bond over an 8-hour period and have that creature show up at your campsite and then become yours?
Exactly.
All right, so the next one is going to be one that I think almost, actually a lot of people take this one. Is called the Hunter. Starting at 3rd level, you get something called Hunter's Prey. Hunter's Prey is huge because you have 3 different subclasses of the archetype to choose from. The first one is going to be one of my favorite. It's Colossal Slayer. This basically means that if any creature under its maximum hit points, if they have been hit one time, knocking them off their maximum hit points, you do an additional 1d8 on your damage. That's huge.
That's almost like an extra sneak attack.
It is. It's rolling a double. It's rolling another dice, for your damage. So that's almost as if you're doing another attack.
Right.
So that's going to be something called Colossal Slayer. If it's been hit it again and do more damage to it.
Right.
The next one's going to be something called Giant Killer. Creatures that are large or larger that are within 5 feet that hit or miss you, you can use your reaction to immediately attack. This is huge. It really and truly is. Because therefore, if you get hit by a large creature, you immediately get to attack them.
Hit or not.
Yeah, so if they attack you, you get to attack them back.
Right. Which can be really nice.
Especially against giants, larger creatures like that.
Giants,
that
trolls, constructs.
You want as many hits going on as possible against them. A great one. Now, one of my favorites that have always been huge to me is Horde Breaker. I've seen it used flawlessly in campaigns before. I think once you get to 3rd level, you kind of know how to use your ranger at that point.
Oh yeah.
And you'll know how to use this. It's called Horde Breaker. Once on each of your turns that you make a weapons attack. It didn't say ranged.
No,
it didn't say melee. It said weapons attack. Okay? You can make another attack with the same weapon against another creature within 5 feet of the original target. That's huge because if you're shooting at ranged and there are 2 targets side by side, you shoot one and then you shoot the other.
Which is really nice, and then it can also benefit very well from the extra attack feature that we will be getting later on. We'll get there, I promise. Now you're making 3 attacks around.
That's right. So you're attacking with Horde Breaker, then you get your extra attack. So therefore, you're attacking 3 targets. And if you do damage to 3 targets, there's less damage that has to be done by your party.
Right.
Which can be huge. All right. Those are the 3 subclasses you get to choose from under the Hunter class. Now, also at 3rd level, you get something called Primeval Awareness. What is that, Michael?
Beginning at 3rd level, you can use your action to expend a spell slot. And for 1 minute per level spell slot you expend,
Okay.
you gain the sense of up to 1 mile or 6 miles if you're in your favorite terrain.
Wow.
If a celestial, aberration, dragon, elemental, fae, fiend, or undead is in that area. You don't know their location or numbers, but you know they're within that area.
Again, that's huge. If you're in your favorite terrain, if you're in grasslands, or if you're in forest, or if you're in mountains, and you can use this Primeval Awareness to 6 miles around you, you can tell whether or not you're being followed, if you're being chased, if you're being, or if they're just there in general. For new players, keep this in mind. Primeval Awareness can be huge for you. Make sure your DM knows that you have this ability and to make sure that you use it on a regular basis.
Yes, it can be really nice, especially in, like, say, Curse of Strahd, when you don't know where the vampire or undead are. You use this feature, you can be like, they're in a mile of us, we need to book it.
There you go, exactly. So it'll come in great in many different types of scenarios. Okay, so now that all that's taken care of, here comes 4th level. Get ready for this, guys. It's what everybody loves. Let's say it together. 1,
Right.
2, 3. Ability score increase. Just like everybody else.
And
So,
I have a feeling no one's going to be surprised by this.
you want to add some into your dex and wisdom.
Yep. Maybe
Yes.
strength if you want to be that strength-based, but
Yep.
dexterity and wisdom really help you go towards that spell casting.
Yes,
And then
it sure
doing
does.
that damage with at least your ranged weapons.
Yes. And so keep that in mind that if you're maybe 1 off from getting that +1 or to your wisdom or to your dex, bump those up. Get that +1. Get that little bit of bonus damage in. Yeah. Get that little bit of bonus attack in that you're able to get. And that'll be huge. So you get ASI at 4th level.
That you do.
At 5th level, everybody sit down for this one because
It's a new feature.
this is a new feature that nobody else gets.
Nope.
Nobody else gets this. At 5th level, you get something called extra attack.
If you couldn't tell earlier by when I said when you gain extra attack.
So at 5th level, you gain extra attack. And so therefore, if you're taking the Beast Companion side, you can take an attack and then your Beast can attack.
Right.
If you're taking Horde Breaker, on the other hand, you're able to do 3 attacks at
Right.
this point. So depending on what kind of character you're playing with, this will come in handy.
Very, very handy. Can come in great in a pinch, and really also cements that second line of defense if need
Absolutely. I would totally agree with that. All right, everybody, we've covered the first 5 levels of Ranger. Ranger is a great class if you know a little bit about magic use in D&D. It does take a little bit of a learning curve to remember to cast your spells and to remember to do that extra little bit of specials that you have. So that's why it didn't go any higher on our list. But I think for the magic casting class, this is the easiest magic casting class,
We'll
honestly,
definitely say.
that you're able to play. For all you new players out there, never be afraid to use magic users. They're a lot of fun to play. There might be a learning curve. Look at the Warlock over here. Arcane Trickster, I've played Arcane Trickster, and I've also played Assassin before. So, you know what? Magic can be fun. So embrace the magic around you. Embrace your character. Embrace your ranger. And just remember, if you can't run through the dungeon,
At least crawl.
I'm DM Kevin.
And I'm Michael.
We'll see you later. Okay, Michael. Now that we have our hit points, proficiencies, and starting equipment, we're going to hop right into the nitty gritty. First level, we're going to get something called Favored Enemy.
Yep.
Beginning at first level, you have a significant experience studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to certain types of enemies.
Right. So this is another laundry list of
Yes.
creatures that we could choose from.
It is.
Which are aberrations, beasts, celestials.
Man, we had that so dead to rights.
No. Don't know. No. All right. Professional.
At 4 minutes.
That's right. We have a long laundry list to choose from, them being aberration.
Laundry. We have a laundry list, Raggy. Ree! Laundry list.
We may have to do this
Come
tomorrow.
on, Scoob. Come on.
We may have to do this tomorrow.
Hey, Scoob. Tell them what they get.
I don't think we can go past this one feature. If we can't do this in another 10 minutes, we may just have to do this tomorrow.
Okay, we'll try it one more time.
Okay.
Okay, at 4:30. Here we go.